Hello everyone, welcome back to Witch in the Woods here on the Yogscast Complete Pack server, and right as I started recording, we had a visitor. Hello Bella, how are you doing? Eesh. Hello Peter, how you doing? Peter Piper. Okay, so today we are predominantly just going to get back to work on the motel build, which actually means I need a little bit of marble, and a ton of birchwood. And other than that, I am predominantly just going to be talking about the homework, which was Suicide Club. If you do not know what the triggers are on that, I can't repeat them. Go and look at the end of the last video. It was a bit of a mess, that one, but hopefully this one's better. I've been trying to make sure that everything works fine since. Oh yeah, birchwood planks, of course. Beyond that, let's just get straight in while I get back to work on the build. So, first just a couple of generic things, and of course it's night, but don't worry, our night vision will kick in soon. As is reasonably uncommon in horror films these days, at least, Suicide Club is completely mundane. That is to say that there is nothing supernatural, it is entirely mortal in nature. There's no evil spirits, there's no serial killer back from the grave, there's no doomsday prophecy, there's no evil god or anything. It's just humans being humans and generally being kind of a dick about it. Oh yeah, I started using chisel around here, so this looks a bit better. Just breaking through where the window would go. Looks better now that we've got different things. I also used some microblocks and some carpenter's blocks so that we got a bit more room inside of this tiny space. It's not perfect still, but it looks better, I think. I think you guys will agree it looks better at the very least. Especially with the differentiation between floor and wall and all sorts of different areas that look different as well. I think that looks nice. Okay, and then also interesting about our movie here, about Suicide Club, is that it plays out at least not for the most part, it doesn't play like you would expect or anticipate a actual horror movie to play out. That is to say that it's not like a bunch of teenagers going on a holiday and they find something evil in the woods or anything like that. No, it's just like, okay, there's this crime happening over and over, and we're not 100% certain if it's actually a crime, but it involves a lot of people dying, so we're going to investigate it, and oh look, a clue. And it just keeps, they just keep getting more and more clues as they go on. So as I say, it plays out predominantly more like a murder mystery than anything else. And my third clue, I literally have like a list of about 35 lines here of notes on this one movie. That's how like big it is. Third thing for just general on this particular movie is that it is set across a grand total of 6 days. And each of these days are delineated inside of the movie for the most part. I think June 1st is about the only one that doesn't have a actual marker to it, if I remember correctly. But yeah, like the whole, despite the sequencing that makes it seem like this is a big ongoing thing, or that it could potentially be happening in like just a handful, 2 or 3 days, it actually takes place in 6. Which means that the whole thing, where like 200 people die that we know of, is in less than a week. Just to put that into some perspective for you. There's going to be some areas around here that are in need of lighting up, aren't there? Yes, there are. I will just put torches here for the time being. And yeah, that's going through the carpenter's block, so that's fine. Good. Okay, so that is one of our cabins, or at least the interior section of. Looks pretty nice. I like it. It needs, it still needs some paintings and stuff. Maybe a little bit more detailing, but it looks nice. I'm happy with this. I am comfortable with this. I might even get rid of this section here, possibly move the chair over. I'd really like a more compact way to have the chest of drawers here. Or the dresser, I think some people said it was called, but... okay, so, on to the main notes of this particular story. And the first one that I enjoy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks. Okay. The first thing that's worth noting is that it starts off in the first 5 minutes, which is an everyday public scene at a train station, which is then shattered by the depths of the 54 to cheerful music. The music like is just perfectly cheery, chipper, doesn't care. It's just like, oh yes, yes, those silly children, with their suicide pacts. Yeah. And those silly children with those suicide pacts speaks a lot about this movie, actually. But then it cuts to a pub scene with seemingly no relation. That is dessert, or dessert, depending on whose translation you're looking at. Just turn those lines off because they're a bit irritating. There we go. Let me see. Do I has? Yes, I has. Just so I can keep a little bit of track on this. So do for the window, up for the door, so the door goes there. Oh, that. I hate it when there are some plants on the ground that, like, it really wouldn't be too difficult to program it for these plants just to pop off, but no. They have to actually serve as a full block so that I can't place stuff in their spot. Yeah. It's like they're bogarting it or something. Anyways, I digress. And then, again, a calm, normal scene is broken by the sudden deaths of the two nurses. This is the two nurses that are just kind of going about their business in the middle of the hospital at night, and our poor bewildered guard does not get off easy ever again after that scene. Like, he has like vision of the ghosts, which is actually probably the closest thing that this entire movie has to an actual picture of the supernatural. And I'm pretty sure that it is just his imagination. I don't think there's actually any meaningful, like, ghost activity in this entire movie. Okay, let's just round this off. I think this needs to go one more just to accommodate the wall. What I'm basically just doing here is spreading these out, and I could be using a creative wand for this, but yeah, I guess give me some time to talk. So yeah, that poor guard goes through a lot in the course of this movie. I don't envy him in the slightest, because, like, he doesn't deserve anything of what he gets. And then a woman just, like, offers him food, and then says she'll, like, see him later, and jumps out the window. Yeah, that's an eventful evening for a guard, I guess. So, but yeah, so both sequences are linked, it is worth noting, by cheerful music, namely that of Dessert, and the white bag. We don't yet know what is in the white bag, but the first white bag shows up, it's just plonked down in the spreading pool of blood from the 54, and then it is reappeared inside of the hospital, coated in blood, caked in it. Let me see, what was I using? Vertical, that's what I was using for the floor in here. Cube. There we go. Yep. Doop, 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 doop. So yeah, the white bag turns up twice, and we don't know exactly why yet. And the nurse scene, it's worth noting, takes about 10 minutes, making it twice as long as the scene of the 54. And in the course of those 54 minutes, we get so much misdirection. It's like we get so much focusing on the guard, and we spend so much time also just sort of paying attention to the nurses, and just like, oh, they've just gone off to get some food, and then there are these loud thuds, and then we don't see, like, anything with the nurses for a really long time. So we start to wonder, okay, is this actually some kind of ghost story? And then she jumps out the window, and we realize, oh, right, yes, it is about that. Welp. That's, like, just basically how this movie goes for a fair bit. Okay, I think I've nearly got this one laid out, but let's have a little fly and see what we can think. Whoop. Oh, no, I need to be one more deeper. That's fine, it's basically just like an incomplete section. Right. So then we have the sudden cut to the detectives. Now that we know that this is actually a crime, that now we know that there's something funky off that's making people choose to end their lives early, we actually have to get the police involved, so we jump to the police. Good. Seems reasonable and logical to me. Now the three that we have are Kuroda, which is the sort of, for want of a better term, oval-faced guy, Shibusawa, who is the young, big-haired guy, and Murata, who is, like, the aged guy who looks like he should be some kind of Shinto priest. fun fact, Kurata is, well, Murata, not Kurota, is portrayed by a guy who is really big into a kind of Japanese performance art called Buto. He's what is known as a Butoka. Worth looking into. Gets kind of creepy at various points, but that's kind of the point of Budoka. Okay, I need to get the walls in, I think. And let me see, I need that one. So, yeah, we cut to the detectives, and then the dot site is revealed by our unseen computer user, Kumori, otherwise known as the Bat, which is what that means. And it doesn't mean like the baseball bat, it actually means like the animal bat, Kumori. We don't really know much about them, and they don't honestly serve much purpose in the story as a whole. Other than that they are communicating with the police and letting them know these odd little things that they're coming across on the internet, which, and honestly I don't see quite how you could readily associate the dot site with most of this. It just sort of happens, it's just sort of a thing that's just in the background there, suggesting that there are people who are actually, like, controlling this whole affair, that this isn't just random happenstance, that there's actually, like, a plan because these figures are going up before the suicides happen. Now, was there a mist block there? I feel like one vanished on me. No idea, no idea. Hey, yeah, nice little calming, relaxing episode so far. It's nice to have one of those every now and then, you know, just to have, like, a quiet day, just working on a project. That's like one of the best parts of Minecraft, is when you just got a project to work on for a bit. Right. Anyways, let's get down there here. So then the bag is finally opened, as if we had any final remaining, ooh, I need to replace these, jeez. Final remaining, ideas that this was not, some kind of pre-planned thing. The bag is opened, adding our next bizarre clue, which is the roll of flesh. That is legit how it is referred to, by the way. It is known as the roll of flesh. And you couldn't have named it in a manner that made it sound less appealing, really, could you? Eesh. Okay, grab these back up so that I can replace them with the proper. I could whack them with the chisel, but that takes durability from it, and I don't really have anything to repair durability, at least not on me. I don't really have anything to fill that in, so I'm just gonna leave it. It's like the middle of nowhere. I don't think any inspectors will come and investigate this. Surely not. It's just a small little motel in the middle of nowhere. Why would anyone happen to, like, come and be concerned here? Okay. Little cave noise there, just to make that seem even more strange. Okay, I need my Dartcraft clipboard, which are really hard to tell apart all the time. And then we get, from deciphering the mysteries of the roll of flesh, we get this prophecy. And that is that this roll of flesh has been made from about 200 people. About 100 people are already dead. There must be 100 more suicides to go. Reasonable conclusion to draw. And that, in turn, gives us sort of a classical sign of a just generic horror movie, and just like as a rule, which is that things are bad, they're gonna get worse. It's like, it's hard to find a movie that doesn't follow that recipe somewhere. It's like, you find, let me think of an example. Well, you know, we all had this strange dream about this guy with the knives, and then then you find out that the grown-ups don't want to mention that person whatsoever. They want to keep that kind of information discreet and hidden. Well, turns out, yeah, it's getting worse. It's just a standard thing of horror movies. You establish things as normal, relatively speaking, at the very least, so you can establish them as less normal, and then you can finally build up and establish them as definitely not normal. Fairly standard stuff. Okay, then we move along, we get to our next day, and it becomes apparent that, for one thing, this movie is going to be set in a lot of crowded public spaces. This is echoing the societal nature of the problem which is presently gripping the movie, that of the suicides. They don't seem to respect specific schools, as we find out from Murata's investigation. They don't seem to respect ages, because we have high schoolers and we have the nurses. So this is clearly a widespread societal issue. Good. That's kind of the issue with suicide in general. And then dessert appears, again, as the Kuroda family just have this nice, happy side sequence just to, like, give us this notion of, okay, well, we don't really know what's going on right now, but Kuroda and the detectives are, like, professionals, and if they can be calm, then it probably means that we'll be fine. They are responsible, seasoned professionals in their field. They can handle this sequence of just different people offing themselves for no seeming, at the moment, reason. That is an important thing to remember. The side scene doesn't make sense in, like, initial context, but pay attention to it because it actually means quite a bit. And it will mean even more later on. So the next day, this would be May 29th, I believe, they are numbered. Students are, we get to this, like, just sort of, like, off-the-cuff scene of students, just sort of, like, wandering around their high school, just sort of chattering, as, like, students often do, and they get to discussing the suicides. Fair enough, you expect high school students to just chatter about what's going on in the news and such. That's fairly normal, that's perfectly fine. There shouldn't ever be a problem with that. We should expect it, if anything. And it seems perfectly normal, and then you figure, oh, they're running up to the thing, and they're just playing around like high school students do, and then they jump. And the audience's reaction in that situation pretty much mirrors exactly what the unfortunate 3 remaining students react. It's like, one of them is in perfect disbelief, the only male that's left. One of the females is so completely flabbergasted in what just happened that she figures, well, I can't back down now. We have to go. I don't want to be the last one standing here. And then there's another one that's just like, okay, well, that just happened. I guess this is a thing. I guess I have to go through with this. And I wish I could say that wasn't a real thing, but it's pretty much the basis of survivor guilt. Yeah, so that happens. That's a scene. Now this, unfortunately, it's worth noting, a lot of this movie has a ton of parallels with reality. This is unfortunate, but true. So namely, this one plays on the common nature of teenagers to internalize popular ideas. That's why you tend to find that teenagers have a ton of, like, different fads and crazes and subcultures and such relative to more adults or, like, even younger groups. You have teenagers who are finally finding their way in the world, they're getting access to a whole ton of information, and they just sort of consume it like a sponge and just go in whatever way seems like the most rational. So you get various fads, and this is even commented on in the course of this movie. Maybe it's just some kind of suicide fad, is, I think, Murata's idea. But after that, an unfortunate event, we are introduced to our 4th character of the movie, in the 4th day of it, when her boyfriend lands on her, apparently also in the grip of this craze. Let me see, what do I need here? Am I finished building this one? I think I need, like, tiles down here. I don't think these birch planks make sense here. So yeah, she gets hit by by her falling boyfriend, and she seems to sort of, like, walk it off, quite literally, despite the fact that she's bleeding heavily from her head. Let me see, what's a good textured here for tiling? I think fancy marble tiles might do the trick. Those might be a bit too fancy. Too fancy! Take them back. So yeah, that's means to go. And we don't really see her for a long while after this. She gets brought in by the police, of course, to make sure that everything is okay with her. But by and large, she's very much a side character for a very long while. Okay, that looks better. And I shall have to go over here and replace them in here as well. Don't mind me just climbing over the wall to get to your bathroom. make no comment on that whatsoever. Right. And then our friend the Bat, Gomori, returns on May 29th, describing a bunch of things, including that they suspect that the source of the suicides is from the internet. Fair. That's not exactly a very meaningful statement, given that, well, we know that high school students will draw their ideas for what to do in their day-to-day lives in general just off of the internet. That's not really a very meaningful statement. It's like saying, oh, high schoolers drink water, so maybe it's from water. Yeah, it's worth noting, but it's not very meaningful. Like, it's not really much of a lead. But May 30th, we get a new clue, as an anonymous, very annoyingly coughing young boy calls the police, calls Kuroda specifically. Emboldened by this tip, our heroes venture out to the site of the original 54 suicides to stake it out, and nothing happens. It ends catastrophically. They try their best to stop what they think are suicides, but no, they're just people going home. The reality here is, you cannot really see the face of your enemy in a situation like this. You don't know who's going to leap in front of the train until they do, or at least until they actually try. Anyone who's just at a public train station could be someone like that, or they could just be someone on their way home from work. So, coming home from that, we have the cheery music of Dessert, again, over flashes of fun times around the city, possibly over Japan just in general, and then they start to take a very disturbing turn. People start to die en masse, and it's just sort of, oh, okay, yeah, looks like everybody's getting in on this now. Not just the young people, not just the nurses, it's actually everybody, pretty much. Everyone with the slightest bit of reason to not be happy with their lives. Even those who seem to be perfectly fine and happy with their lives. So, yeah, and then the Bat gets a rude set of guests, Genesis and his ilk. It's not clear if Genesis is actually, like, remotely tied to anything that is actually going on, but he's there, and he is a very, very detestable human being, as I'm sure was intentional. Is that? Yes, that's the right type. Good. Yeah, Genesis is an absolute evil person. Like, there's nothing redeemable about that guy. Is this actually wide enough? I feel like this isn't wide enough. No, because it needs to go one more this way. Good thing I checked. And then we get another call from the coughing boy after Kuroda gets back home. And our three detectives, our three stalwart, competent heroes who started out in the movie with such promise, are reduced to two. Shibusawa and Murata. Poor Kuroda. Like, we focused on... It's worth knowing, we focused on Kuroda. Like, he was the one coming up with all of the big ideas. He was the one that we spent the most camera time with. And now he, like, exits of his own accord, basically. Exits stage left, pursued by a deep sense of societal guilt. Yeah, it's hard to joke about this movie, but it's really... for that matter, it's good. And then May 31st finally rolls around. The final 6th day. And Genesis is arrested, quite happily, after deciding to get caught via Kumori trying to escape. Komori's capture scene is terrifying. It's like just so traumatizing there. I'm glad I put actual meaningful content warnings on this now, which I'm gonna trying to keep doing. And we see him get arrested. He calls himself the Charles Manson of the information age, I think he says, which would be a bit of a stretch, but this kind of also feeds into hero worship amongst serial killers and such. Isn't it weird, actually? Like, when he's being arrested, he quotes Desert's song again. It seems like that band has been somehow associated with every day of this movie so far. A bit odd for a pop band, isn't it? Anyways, then Mitsuko finally reappears. We haven't seen her for 2 days, which is a big chunk of this movie. And we see her just sort of like returning the helmet of her deceased boyfriend. Ooh, I need to try that. Doop. Yeah, who fell on her ages ago. Let's make it 4. Right. And that's all fairly well and good. It's just like she's just sort of like going about the business of being someone whose loved one has recently passed away, and she's just sort of like returning his items and stuff to the family associated. And then she notices that he was a big fan of dessert, and looks around and realizes, hang on, there are subliminal messages from dessert hidden inside of their posters and their songs. And you think back to their songs, and you realize, oh god, how did I not see that? How did I not, like, realize that they were making all of these, in hindsight, very, very obvious associations? And then she's just sort of inducted, and you find out that apparently there's this group of children that is at the very least involved, if not directly responsible. And, like, the reality comes to bear. In classical Eastern horror fashion, not only is the horror not over yet, it hasn't even slowed down. Like, it's not even done. It's got a lot more to go. And so the suicides continue. I could probably do it, like, just using sideways birch stairs for this section, but, we'll use the microblocks for now, at least. And let me just check how long I've been talking, because, geez. Oh boy, okay, yeah, okay, I'm gonna wrap this up quickly. It's worth noting, Japan has a huge problem with suicide. I think it's either 19 or 29, I cannot remember which, of every 100,000 people will commit suicide in Japan. The vast bulk of them are male, but it affects all genders equally. Japan has a really big issue with suicide. It goes not only from just their workload to their culture. It's a huge problem, and it's like really important to remember that. Like, this movie is speaking from Japanese truths of their modern society. So yeah, that's one of the reasons that Suicide Club is really important as a horror movie. Follows more or less the same kind of makeup as a typical Eastern horror movie, which is that the problem isn't dead, it's delayed at best, and your heroes are basically screwed. Versus the American horror industry, which tends to be, our hero is, like, really messed up, but now he's going to come back, and he's brought guns! And he will triumph, with the rare exception of the best horror movies, which is things like Nightmare on Elm Street, where, hey, you can't kill him, he's been dead this entire movie. And it hasn't stopped him then. But next movie is going to be 1999's Tomi, which is part of one of the longest-running Japanese movie series to date, 9 movies, made by Ataru Oikawa. I can't recall if he's done all of them, but he definitely did the first one. Trigger warnings for this one are for suicide, gore, asphyxiation, and emotional abuse. So there are your warnings. If you're going to watch this movie, bear those in mind. Of course, age ratings are something to keep in mind as well, and with that, from this slightly long, slightly rambling episode where I just built for a bit, I shall catch you all next time.